We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast. This is Abe, your host. I just got off work, so I'm a little bit wore out. I didn't sleep too good last night. I go through those phases, man. I mean, it could be like 2 or 3 nights in a row that I just go with like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, you know. Luckily, work has been kind of not really slow, just very chill here recently. So that's been helpful. I got plans. Me and Sammy are going to take a trip to Louisville whenever we get a day off together. That is. We're going to be hitting up a cryptozoological hotspot looking for Goatman in a certain area. So I'm going to probably do a podcast episode on it, and we're going to obviously make a video of it. We always make videos when we do any like ghost hunting, or I think we have like 1, maybe 2 like cryptozoology hunting videos. But yeah, so we'll put it out. You'll get a podcast probably, and an actual video on it. But I'm not sure when that will happen, so don't hold me to my word, you know. But it'll be dope. It'll be fun. But today I figured, I know it's Conspiracy Corner Podcast, you know. So if you're a new listener, I hope you know that we cover paranormal, ufology, conspiracy theories, obviously, but we also cover like the macabre, you know. And I've started a little mini series on here. I like to start up little mini series here and there. Like we have one on secret societies, which I think is probably about done. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. There's a billion secret societies, though. It's insane. But we've been doing one on torture devices. And today's torture device we are covering is the stocks. And I've been taking it from literally super old. Let me see. I checked the date on one of the older episodes. Let me see. 1896. It's an original pamphlet that I have from 1896 of like different torture devices. So, but today's is the stocks. We are covering the stocks. One of the earliest institutions in every New England community was a pair of stocks. The first public building was a meeting house. But often before any house of God was builded, the devil got his restraining engine. It was a true English punishment, and to a degree, a Scotch, and even most ancient date. In the Cambridge Trinity College Psalter, an illuminated manuscript illustrated the manners of the 12th century may be seen in the quaint pictures of 2 men sitting in the stocks, while 2 others flout them. So essential to due order and government were the stocks that every village had them. Sometimes they were movable, and often they were kept in the church porch. A sober Sunday monitor, Shakespeare says in King's Lear. Fetch forth the stocks, you stubborn ancient knave. In England, petty thieves, unruly servants, wife-beaters, hedge-terrors, vagrants, Sabbath breakers. See, I don't agree with that one. If I don't feel like going to church, I shouldn't have to go to church. That's why I'm a goddamn American. Revelers, gamblers, drunkards, ballad singers, fortune tellers. I don't agree with that one either. I like my fortune telling, man. Traveling musicians. Wow, that's a little harsh. And a variety of other offenders were all punished by the stocks. Doubtless the most notable person ever set in the stocks for drinking too freely was the great man Cardinal Wolsey. About the year 1500, he was the incumbent at Lymington, and getting drunk at a village feast, he was seen by Sir Amias Paulet, a strict moralist and local justice of the peace, who humiliated the embryo cardinal by thrusting him in the stocks. The Boston magistrates had a pair of bilbos, which we covered that in an earlier episode, so I'll try to leave not a link, but an actual video, suggested video you can click on during the cast or whatever, credits. So yeah, check out our channel in general if you don't care. Where am I at? The Boston magistrates had a pair of bilbos, doubtless brought from England, but these were only temporary, and soon stocks were ordered. It is a fair example of the humorous side of a Puritan law so frequently and unwittingly displayed that the first malefactor set in these strong new stocks was the carpenter who made them. That is ironic. That sucks, like the whole time he was in them stocks too. He was like, God dang it. Edward Palmer, for his extortion and taking £1, I guess. I don't know. This symbolism is wicked. This is an old 1800s book, and he stole wood though. For the plank and woodwork of Boston stocks is fined blank more currency, and censured to be set an hour in the stocks. So, wow, talk about irony. So the dude stole the wood to build the stocks, and then got caught for stealing the wood to build the stocks, and got locked in the stocks that he built. That's insane. Thus did our ancestors make the punishment fit the crime, quote unquote. It certainly was rather a steep charge for the carpenter Robert Bartlett of New London, made not long after, quote, a pair of stocks with 9 holes fitted for the irons, unquote, and only charged 13 shillings and 4 pence for his work. The carpenter of Shrewsbury, Massachusetts, likewise, as Pepys said of a new pair of stocks in his neighborhood, took handsel of the stocks of his own making. By the way, the language in here is super old English, so I'm not fucked up or nothing. That's just literally how they speak in this pamphlet. In Virginia, a somewhat kindred case was that of one Mr. Henry Charlton of Hunger's Parish in 1633 for slandering the minister, Mr. Cotton. Charlton was ordered, quote, to make a pair of stocks and set in them several Sabbath days after divine service, and then ask Mr. Cotton's forgiveness for using offensive words concerning him, unquote. In Maryland, in 1655, another case may be cited. One William Bramhall, having been convicted of signing a rebellious petition, was for a second offense of like nature ordered to be, quote, at the charge of building a pair of stocks and see it finished within 1 month, unquote. There is no reference to his punishment, though, through the stocks of his own manufacture. So it sounds like, honestly, well, first of all, that case right there is like infringement on freedom of speech, which sounds very familiar in these times in 2020. We're not even allowed to talk about election fraud anymore. So now that I said that word, watch this video get taken down and watch me get a strike. But not only do they put you in the stocks, which that last case, there was no description of him being actually put in the stocks, but sounds like a trend, like you have to build the device that holds you, the device that tortures you, which is fucked. With a regard for the comfort of the criminal, strangely at variance with that Cotton Mather term, the gust of the age. In a profound submission to New England climate, a Massachusetts law enacted June 18, 1645 declares that he yet offends in excessive and long drinkage he shall be set in the stocks for 3 hours when the weather is seasonable. Just as soon as the Boston stocks had been well warmed by Carpenter Palmer, they promptly started on a well-filled career of usefulness. They gathered in James Luxford, who had been scented for having 2 wives. Aw, the dude just wanted to have some fun. What's wrong with threesomes, man? They gathered in James Luxford, who had been he had to pay a fine for £100 and be set in the stocks 1 hour upon the following market day after lecture, and on the next lecture day also, where he could be plainly seen by every maid and widow in the little town, that there may be no wife number 3. Honestly, though, like, it sounds like it's just like an hourly thing. Like, I ain't gonna lie, this don't really sound like that crazy of a punishment. I mean, if it was like a daily thing, yeah, that would fucking suck, but let's see. Then a watchman of the little town, quote, for drinking several times of strong waters, unquote, took his turn. Soon a man for, quote, unquote, uncivil carriages was stocked. Every town was enjoined to build stocks. In 1655, Medfield had stocks, and in 1638, Newbury and Concord were fined for the want of stocks. And Newbury was given time till the next court session to build them. The town obeyed the order, and soon John Perry was setting them for his abusive carriage to his wife and child. So he was abusive. Yeah, lock him up. Dedham and Waterton were presented in 1639 for the want of stocks. Ipswich already had them, for John Wedgwood the same year was set in the stocks simply for being in the company of drunkards. Damn, just for being around an alcoholic, like you just get shoved in the stocks, man. In Yarmouth, a thief who stole flax and yarn, and in Rehoboth, that's the name of the town, one who stole an Indian child, were stocked. Portsmouth, New Hampshire, built stocks. So that, whoa. Let me go back on that. One who stole. Wow, so there was kidnapping on both sides. I do have to say that. Being someone who has Native American and white blood running through his veins, like, I've always thought it was more of a Native American thing, honestly, that they stole children, which is historically proven. So before you call me a racist, I am part Native American, for one, and 2, I look at the sides of every story. There's 2 sides to every coin, but That's kind of crazy. So a white dude stole a Native American child. That's mind blowing a little bit. Because normally it's the other way around. Portsmouth, New Hampshire, built stocks in a cage. Plymouth had a constant relay of Quakers to keep her stocks from ever lying idle, as well as other offenders such as Anne Savory of unsavory memory. So yeah, every time you see your little Quaker Oats label, just think about the torture devices, man. They were a part of it. Rhode Island ordered, quote unquote, good sufficient stocks in every town. In the southern and central colonies, the stocks were a constant force. The Dutch favored the pillory and whipping post, but a few towns had stocks. We find the Heer officer in Beverwyck, Albany, dispensing justice in a most summary manner. When Martin Day Metslayer wounded another in a drunken brawl, the authorities hunted Martin up. Quote, early hauled him out of bed and set him in the stocks. Unquote. Connecticut was a firm advocate of the stocks, and plentiful examples might be given under New Haven and Connecticut laws. Webb a Day, who was evidently a single man, for the 2 breaches of the Sabbath, was ordered to be set in the stocks, then to find a master, and if not complying with this second order, the town would find one for him and sell him for a term of service. So basically kind of like slavery. This was the arbitrary and not unusual method of disposing of lazy, lawless, and even lonely men. So just for being lonely, you could be sold into slavery? This is insane. Oh, wow. As well as more hardened criminals who, when sold for a term of service, usually got into fresh disgrace and punishment through disobedience, idleness, and running away. I do not find many sentences of women to be set in the stocks. Jane Bolton of Plymouth was stocked for reviling the magistrates. One of her neighbors sat in the stocks and watched her husband take a flogging. Damn, that's harsh. Goody Gregory of Springfield in 1640, being grievously angered by a neighbor, profanely abused her, saying, before God I could break thy head. She acknowledged her great sign and fault, like a woman. But she paid her fine and sat in the stocks like a man, since she swore like one. And it should be noted that the stocks were not for the punishment of gentlemen. They were thoroughly plebeian. The pillory was aristocratic in comparison, as was also branding with a hot iron. Damn, that would hurt. Fiercely hedged around was divine worship. The stocks added their restraint by threatened use. All persons who stand out of the meeting house during the time of service to be set in the stocks. In Plymouth in 1665, all persons being without the doors at the meeting house on the Lord's days, in hours of exercise, demeaning themselves by jesting, sleeping, and the like, if they shall persist in such practices, he, the tithing man, shall set them in the stocks. Regard for church and state were often combined by making public confession of sin in church with punishment in front of the church after service. So that sounds like, honestly, like public humiliation. Confession in a public place. Sounds a lot like an AA meeting. Just saying. This was simply a carrying out of English customs. Mr. Hamilton, author of that interesting book. Okay. It's hard to read. It's like it's a weird font. Quarter Sessions from Queen Elizabeth to Queen Anne, says dealing with Devonshire. So this is a fragment from that. A favorite punishment for small offenses, such as resisting the constable, was the stocks. The offender had to come into church at morning prayer and say publicly that he was sorry. He was then set in the stocks until the end of the evening prayer. The punishment was generally repeated on the next market day. It was scarcely necessary to describe the shape and appearance of the stocks, for pictures of them are so common. They were formed by two heavy timbers, the upper one of which could be raised, and, when lowered, was held in place by a lock. And these two timbers were cut two half-circle notches, which met two similar notches, when the upper timber was in place and thus formed round holes, holding firmly in place the legs of the imprisoned culprit. Sometimes the arms were thrust into smaller holes similarly formed. See, now that's where it would suck, because then you're in some weird-ass position for hours, man, depending on the crime. The arm and the... Yeah, that would suck. Just the legs, yeah, I could deal with that. Shit, I'd do it just for a YouTube video if you guys want to see it, because I do have this posted on a YouTube channel. So if you're not checking us out, if you're listening to us on any platform besides YouTube, because we are on a bunch of platforms, so I'm going to go ahead and plug that real quick. We are on... here we go. Give me just a second. I'm sorry. Technical difficulty. Well, damn, I can't find the paper. I'll do it off the top of my head. We are on Spotify. We are on Breaker. We are on Google Podcasts. We are on Anchor. We are on Radio Public. And if you are... And we have a YouTube channel. It's just... The YouTube channel is literally Abe Williams. And the profile picture is a dream catcher. How long I will be on YouTube? I'm not sure, because YouTube is cracking down on everything, dude. Especially conspiracy theory stuff. That's why, honestly, since the last debate, I have not put out a whole lot. You know, I mean, I missed out on some good stuff and info to give you guys too, like where to find Hunter Biden's laptop videos and all sorts of shit, but I can't touch it with a 10-foot pole because they gave me like 2 strikes, or 1 strike and 1 warning since the debate. I mean, they are cracking down, y'all. So worst case scenario, if I get 2 strikes, I'm going to start a backup YouTube channel. So I'll let you all know. All right. The stocks were the scene of many striking figures and many amusing ones. What a sight was that when an English actor who had caused the playing of the Midsummer Night's Dream in the very house of the Bishop of Lincoln, and on Sunday too, was set in the stocks at the bishop's gate, with an ass's head besides him, and a wisp of hay, and the derision of the part he had played, that of Bottom the Weaver. This in 1631, after both Plymouth and Boston had been settled. And the stocks were not without their farcical side in New England. Governor Winthrop's account of the exploits of a Boston Dogberry in 1644 is certainly amusing. There fell out a troublesome business in Boston. An English sailor happened to be drunk and was carried to his lodging, and the constable, a godly man, and much zealous against such disorders, hearing of it, found him out, being upon his bed asleep, so he awakened him, and led him to the stocks. No magistrate being at home, he being in the stocks, one of Latour's French gentlemen, visitors in Boston, lifted up the stocks and let him out. The constable, hearing of it, went to the Frenchman, being then gone and quiet, and would needs carry him to the stocks. The Frenchman offered to yield himself to go to prison, but the constable, not understanding his language, pressed him to go to the stocks. The Frenchman resisted and drew his sword, and with that company came in and disarmed him, and carried him by force to the stocks. But soon after the constable took him out and carried him to prison, and presently after took him forth again and delivered him to La Tour. Much tumult was there about this. Many Frenchmen were in town, and other strangers, who were not satisfied with the dealing of the constable, yet were quiet. In the morning the magistrate examined the cause, and sent for La Tour, who was much grieved for his servant's miscarriage, and also for the disgrace put upon him. For in France it is a most ignominious thing to be laid in the stocks. But yet he complained not of any injury, but left him wholly with the magistrates to do with him what they pleased, etc., etc., etc. The constable was the occasion of all this transgressing the bounds of his office, and that in 6 things. 1. In fetching a man of his lodging that was asleep upon his bed, and without any warrant from authority. 2. Well, they don't need warrants, apparently. Like, America is pretty much burning its constitution over here, so sounds like something that would happen today. 2. In not putting a hook upon the stocks, nor setting some guard to them. 3. In laying hands upon the Frenchman that had opened the stocks when he was gone and quiet. 4. In carrying him to prison without warrant. 5. In delivering him out of the prison without warrant. Yeah, that sounds like America. I've been arrested like 3 times, and I'm trying to remember. Yeah, one of the times, let's see, 2. Yeah, there's actually 2 times that I should not have been arrested. I'm just saying. 6. In putting such a reproach upon a stranger and a gentleman when there was no need, for he knew he would be forthcoming, and the magistrate would be at home that evening. But such are the fruits of ignorant and misguided zeal. But the magistrates thought not convenient to lay these things to the constable's charge before the assembly, but rather to admonish him for it in private, lest they should have discouraged and discountenanced an honest officer. Truly this is a striking and picturesque scene in colonial life, one worthy of Hogarth's pencil. The bronzed English sailor, inflamed with drink, ear-ringed, pigtailed, with short, wide, flapping trousers, and brave with sash and shining cutlass, the gay, and that just means happy back in the day, volatile Frenchman, in the beautiful and courtly dress of his day and nation, all laces and foul ballas, and the solemn pragmatic Puritan tipstaff, with long wand of black and white, and horned lanthorn, with close-cropped head, sad-colored in garments, severe of features, zealous in duty, and the spectator standing staring at the stocks, Indian stragglers, fair Puritan maidens, fierce sailor-men, a pious preacher, a sober magistrate, no lack of local color in that picture. It is interesting to note, in all the colonies, the attempt to exterminate all idle folk and idle ways. The severity of the penalties were so salutary in effect that, as Mrs. Goodwin states in her Colonial Cavalier, they soon would have exterminated even that social pest, the modern tramp. Vagrants and those who were styled quote-unquote transients were fiercely abhorred and cruelly spurned. I have found by comparison of town records that they were often whipped from town to town, only to be thrust forth in a few weeks with fresh stripes to another grudge resting place. Such entries as this of the town of Westerly, Rhode Island, might be produced in scores. September 26, 1748. that the officer should take the said transient forthwith to some public place in this town and strip him from the waist upward and whip him 20 stripes, well laid on his naked back, and then by said the officer transported out of this town. The appearance of the crime likewise had to be avoided. In 1635, Thomas Patet, for supposition of slander, idleness, and stubbornness, is to be severely whipped and kept in hold. More shocking and still more summary was the punishment meted out to the Frenchman who was suspected only of setting fire to Boston in the year of 1679. He was ordered to stand in the pillory, have both his ears cut off, oh my God, pay the charges of the court, and lie in prison in bonds of 500 pounds until sentence was performed. The Massachusetts magistrates were not the only ones to sentence punishment on suspicion. Damn, just for suspicion he got his ears cut off. Holy shit. In Scotland, one Richardson, a tailor, being accused of pickery or pilfering, was adjudged to be punished with 12 strikes with ein double belts, because there could be no sufficient proof gotten, but vehement suspicion. Writing of the punishments of bygone days, an English rhymester says, quote, "Each mode has served its turn, and played a part, for good or ill with man, while the bane of drunkenness corrupts the nation's heart, discrediting our age, methinks the reign of stocks at least were all well revived again." There is, in truth, a certain fitness in setting in the stocks for drunkenness, a firm confining of the wandering uncertain legs, a fixing in one spot for quiet growing sober, and meditating on the misery of drunkenness, a fitness that with the extreme of publicity removed, or the wantonness of the spectators curbed, perhaps would not be so bad restraining punishment after all. Some of the greatness and self-control of the later years of the Cardinal Wolsey's life may have come from those hours of mortification and meditation spent in the stocks. And over the stocks might be set a paper, as of yore, bearing in capital letters the old epitaph found in solemn warning of eternity on many an ancient tombstone, but literally applicable in this temporal matter. Quote, "All ye who see the state of me, think of the glass that runs for thee."
We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.